Hello everyone. This is Astro here.
And Thornquill.
And also we have a special guest today, so hello.
Hi.
This is Kira. She's one of my friends. And today we will be talking about, during the hiatus, some of our favorite episodes from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Starting with one of my personal favorites today, Party of One. Probably one of the most memorable episodes in the entire show. It is the episode where Pinkie Pie loves throwing parties, but her friends get a little tired of them. That's not what it's known for. It's known as the episode where Pinkie goes fucking nuts, and we get Pinkamena Diane Pie, and where that whole thing is from. Oh my god.
The spawn of 10,000 fanfics.
Oh, more. It must be more.
I have no idea. I'm sure no one has any idea how many fanfictions this episode inspired.
Fanfictions, projects, stories, just references inside other fanfictions to the infamous fanfiction known as Cupcakes, which was actually published slightly before this, and from that, and everyone's connecting it to this episode, gave Pinkamena Diane Pie, the crazy cupcake baking psychopath murderer, the straight hair that we all now know her by.
Not to mention how this episode probably helped propel Cupcakes into the forefront of everyone's attention.
Oh,
I mean, I actually thought that Cupcakes was written after this episode premiered, because that just makes sense. Having it come so close, but actually having Cupcakes precede this, which you pointed out to me, Astro, that surprised me and slightly terrified me.
It's one of those small details that terrifies us all. But that is okay, because let's just get down to why this is one of my favorite episodes. This is one of my personal favorite episodes because it is about everyone's character development. It's in Season 1. It's actually the second to last episode of Season 1 before The Best Night Ever. And what an episode close to the end of the season where we get to see a character flaw in each character. We've seen it in every one of the characters, and now we get Pinkie Pie's big character flaw, and oh my god, what a character flaw it is.
This is indeed quite the character flaw. Just to see how much she falls apart when she even perceives that her friends might be starting to lose interest in her. And we've seen that pop up a little bit again and again as the seasons have gone on, but this was the extreme episode.
It really was. And I don't think we've ever truly seen this happen again in full, where she starts talking to inanimate objects like they're her friends. But we've certainly seen little tidbits of it. When she gets depressed, her hair goes flat. That's now a running gag. And it's one of those very interesting things where she actually has a physical trait change to her when she gets extremely depressed, and she can get very depressed from very small things just by her friends trying to throw her a surprise party.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been, I think, 4 years now since we saw this episode for the first time. But up until this episode, I don't recall Pinkie Pie having much of a dimensional character, and I've seen her represented in fanfiction that way. This is how you don't do Pinkie Pie, is she's just all the time bouncy, energetic, and happy, and that seemed to be all that we had seen of her up to this point.
And that's why this was such an important episode for us. It shows us this gigantic contrast. And it's also shown, it's been a thing that I've always heard, is the person who laughs the most, or was the person who has seen the most sadness. And this episode certainly rings true for that, because Pinkie, the bright, colorful, will laugh at anything, giggle at the ghosties pony that we've all known and loved, got very, very depressed to a level I don't think we've seen any of our other characters get to.
I think it still holds the record for most extreme characters have lost it, although I think almost each of the main six has had a moment where their mane or their eyes starts going a little crazy.
Yeah, but I think the most of that time where they did that wasn't the on purpose that it was in this one. It was just a,
Yeah.
animation glitch that just seems to happen everywhere and has spawned an entire character based around it. But that's for another time. For now, we're just going to talk about Miss Pinkamena Diane Pie and how this episode played out for her. So for those who have forgotten this episode over the 4 years that we have not seen it, in the beginning of the episode, we have Gummy's birthday party. Little Gummy, her pet alligator. Wow.
Was this the first time we saw the alligator? I don't remember.
No, the first time we've seen the alligator was in Feeling Pinky Keen, where there is an alligator in the tub.
That's right. Okay, I remember now. Moving on.
So, we can see that Pinky's a little out of control, slamming people into walls. Gummy is in the punch bowl. Poor
Typical
Rarity.
Pinkie Pie party.
Yes. Typical Pinkie Pie party. And everyone's getting a little tired of this. But of course, let's throw a party the next day. How we fund this, no one will ever know.
Pinkie Pie versus economics. Do we really even want to explain that?
We have trouble explaining Pinkie Pie versus gravity and physics. Let's not even get into that.
Nope.
Everyone has a reason to say, nah, I don't wanna. Whether it's a legitimate reason, like I believe Twilight, or Rarity where I need to wash my mane, I will shove my head in a trash can.
Oh, that was an act of desperation, to be sure.
That was certainly an act of desperation. Whereas Twilight was studying for finals? I guess that's what it was.
Or I seem to remember that she pulled out half the books in the library into a mess on the floor. So yes, it was studying.
Yes.
And as the excuses go on, Pinkie becomes more despondent and suspicious about the excuses her friends are giving her.
And starts coming up with some rather interesting ideas in her mind. It's kind of... I'm blanking on the word. I'm blanking on the word. I feel like an idiot.
I'm not sure I can help you.
When you're always suspicious of something.
Paranoid?
There we go. Thank you, Kira. Paranoid. I look like an idiot now. Brilliant. She gets very, very paranoid in the fact that she brings in Spike for a little interrogation, and she essentially makes him say, hey, your friends don't like you anymore. And
that scene is hilarious.
It's hilarious, and then she just, at the realization, like, my friends don't like me anymore, just deflate. And she just deflates and sits on the floor in absolute sadness. Her hair goes straight. And the saddest image of Pinkie Pie I think we've ever seen.
And yet the scene itself has this really weird twist of comedy and depression, because the whole thing is a joke, obviously, because she just made Spike say that. So her coming to this crushing realization is at the same time funny, and the sound effects set that off. So it's just all kinds of messed up.
It's especially with that's where we have a commercial break, and when we get back from the commercial break, what is going on?
Madness.
Pure, unadulterated madness. She's talking to a pile of rocks, a bunch of lint, a bucket of turnips, and a bag of flour, and she's serving them cake.
I have to say, I think Madame Lafleur was my favorite from this scene.
Yeah. Oh, Rocky was nice too. Rocky I thought was pretty clever.
He got into the altercation with Rainbow Dash, so...
Yeah. Rocky is down after one nose boop. People are going to start commenting because they know where that is from. That's from Cinemare Sins. He said that.
Ah, yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's where that's from. But this scene really just shows that Pinkie kind of loses it. And it's the famous scene. It's the famous... Her eyes just go out into space. She's kind of lost her mind, and thus the meme was forever born.
She gets that weird splatter paint background behind her.
Mm-hmm. And the meme was born. The greatest meme of the fandom was born that day. And we can never go back.
Oh no, there was no going back after this episode aired.
There really wasn't. And I guess another big thing for me with this episode was it was the first thing in the entire show that wasn't just this. It's all kid friendly. This is not kid friendly.
Oh, I don't think it ever quite crosses that line,
It doesn't
but
obviously cross that line, but it's like this got dark really fast.
it did get dark to an extent. And that is what pulled the episode off so well because let's face it, the actual story of the episode that compels Pinky to this insanity isn't
Silly.
actually one that's all that remarkable. And I think most people probably saw it coming a mile off. Oh, they're throwing a surprise for her, but she doesn't get it. I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen that before. But instead of just being paranoid about her friends, she completely snaps. And I think that gave a lot of people a lot of insight into the character and a lot to play with. And I think that goes beyond just the standard cupcakes memorabilia.
Yeah. It gives everyone really the depth to Pinkie Pie that she has a lot of sadness and she's very dependent on her friends and being friends with everyone. And if she loses that connection to everyone, it's bad for her. She becomes incredibly, incredibly depressed. She loses everything, essentially, that makes her Pinkie Pie.
Yeah, her entire we this episode really showed us that her entire personality is built around trying to entertain others, but even just going beyond that, uh, giving oh, what am I trying to say? Giving others something to laugh about and distract them from either the mundanity or the issues of their everyday lives. And that got built out in future episodes. The one with cheese sandwich that I'm blanking on the name of. That one really developed the concept of her motivation. And even just with the one of the last episodes where her secret basement was finally revealed, it's shown how much her self-worth is based on the ability to entertain, please, and just make others happy.
So, essentially, I guess to wrap up my thoughts on why this is one of my favorite episodes, it is the big episode that gives Pinkie Pie, I think, more depth than any other episode we've ever had for her. This shows us that Pinkie Pie is not a one-dimensional comedic relief character. She is a dynamic character that has some serious inner feelings and obviously some issues to her, but she's very dependent on friends just as much as her friends might be dependent on her. Probably more.
Exactly. I think this episode isn't one that I usually think of when I think of my favorites. I'm actually trying to narrow them down and having way too hard of a time of it than I should be. But it's certainly one of the most memorable. I remember seeing this episode and just thinking, what are they doing? And it was, for me, it was just hilarious because at that point I wasn't very immersed in the fandom yet, and I didn't even know that cupcakes existed. So for me, this episode was just funny in that kind of extreme, wow, this character lost it kind of way. But it was certainly one of the most memorable.
And it's one of those episodes where you're in the fandom and you go back and look at it and you see, wow.
Then you start to see more and more.
This is where it came from. This is where Satan was summoned.
Oh boy.
This is where we drew the chalk circle.
We're never getting Astro off this cupcakes vibe, are we?
Oh.
How about you, Kira? What did you think? What do you remember about this episode?
I just remember Pinkie Pie's just like spiral of insanity and just like how he really sort of sympathized with her because like for God's sake she's the element of laughter. Like she sort of depends on her friends laughing. She sort of it's just like a lot of responsibility to take on, and you sort of sympathize with her because she can't always make someone laugh.
Yeah, I think as speaking as an introvert, it's a little harder to identify with Pinky sometimes. Like I've always thought of her as the friend that I would never quite know how to deal with on a regular basis.
I totally agree.
because
why.
I've known a few variants of Pinkie Pie in my time, but I think that that questioning of, do my friends really like me, or do they want to push me away and not have to deal with me? I think that's something that's pretty identifiable to a lot of people.
It is. I think most people go through that at least one point in their life.
Yeah.
And this was, I guess, back when, looking from season 5, this is back when we did have friendship letters.
Yep, those are still going on.
Yeah. It's fun how things have changed and how things have evolved and how these characters have evolved but still kept to these old little things that from season 1.
I think the show has done a really good job of that. Like how we've talked about how Pinkie Pie has been built on very much from the ideas that were laid down in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they haven't clung to things that may have outlived their usefulness, or at least outlived how well the writers felt they could do them, like the friendship letters.
Yeah. Which I think is pretty good. The show is evolving.
There is a part of me that still kind of misses... I don't know, it's weird to say that I miss the friendship letters because they're moralizing, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there was a charm to the way that they handled them, and the link between Twilight and Celestia. Maybe that's what I miss. I don't know, but
she's a princess now, and she has freaking wings. So
yep. It is probably best that things have developed as they have.
Yeah, I think we have run out of things to say on this episode.
I think I've covered my bases.
Yep. Well, then I guess until next time, this has been Astro Brony
and Thornquill
and Kira.
Hi. Bye.
And this is me signing off.
See you next time.